Today we're talking to Sustainable Chemicals about their recent Colorado Cleantech Award back in December. Congratulations to the both of you.
Thank
I
you.
think you're one of the breakthrough awards for some of the things you've come up with in the technology space. So let's start it off by some quick introductions. Silvia, ladies first. I'm always the gentleman in the room. So we'll start with you. Just a little bit about your background.
Yeah. I am the CEO and founder of Sustainable Chemical, and I have a PhD in polymer science from the Scuola Superiore Normale of Pisa, Italy. I've been working in R&D and contract grant for 17 years, and during that period, worked on some of the technology that is related to what we do now. Then I shifted to chemical manufacturing and electronic industry. At some point, decided that the pollution crisis caused by the plastic industry was getting alarming enough to where I felt something needed to be done, and decided to revisit some of the technology that I previously developed in my former work, and decide to try to take it to commercialization to help the world with reduced climate impact from plastic manufacture as well as pollution, both microscopic and macroscopic.
Excellent. So I'm just curious, was there a particular event that kind of made you look at this area that kind of like pushed you over the edge? Like this is where I want to go focus my time.
And catastrophe coming.
Yeah.
And we need to develop the chemistry now so that we're ready in a few years when the problem is going to be even bigger. We need a larger variety of bio-based material that are environmentally friendly so that we can address a variety of performance specification that the plastic industry requires.
Very good. All right. And Denny, why don't you give us a little bit about you and your background?
Sure. So, just like Sylvia, I have a science background, but not in chemistry. My PhD is in molecular biology, and I studied plant molecular biology specifically. And my interest always was plants and its building component, cellulose, is the most abundant material on this planet. And I always thought there are better ways to use plants to help people other than food and building material. And after my PhD, I went to work for a startup company in California that was developing technology to create a fuel from cellulosic plant material. So that has always been in my mind and my interest. And when I met Sylvia through accelerator program where I was mentoring, and later on she contacted me to join Sustainable Chemicals. It really checked off all my boxes in terms of interest and background and great scientific background Sylvia has in polymer science. It was a really great fit for me to join as a chief operating officer and a co-founder of the company.
Perfect. And Sylvia, why don't you just take me back to the start of when you came up with sustainable chemicals and, what you were really trying to do back in those days when you started the company?
And at that time, my focus was to um, sort of pick up back a technology that I originally developed at my former employer, and to see if I could take it commercial. So we have this new biopolymer that is 100% plant-based. It's also biodegradable and is engineered for the circular economy. At that time, there was a preliminary proof of concept and a patent. So I licensed the patent, and we started working on optimization of the process to make scale up, improve material performance, and we are continuing on that journey now.
Great. And then where would you say you are in the stages?
We're still very much in development stage. So we are currently scaling to, we spend significant amount of time optimizing the process at gram scale. Now we are about trying to approach 50-gram scale. This would allow us to have enough material to do preliminary processing, so preliminary extrusion, blow molding, and so forth. And from there, we hope in a year to have, in 6 months to 8 years, to first have multi-kilogram quantities, then tens of kilograms quantities, where we can supply sample to interested parties.
Great. And why don't you just give me, for the person who's not the chemist or, um, the molecular biologist, give me the high level view of what it is that your products do.
Yeah, so when I study, as I mentioned, polymer chemistry in my grad school, and 30 years later, I noticed that many of the so-called biopolymer or environmentally friendly sustainable polymers um, had the same chemistry that I studied decades before. And their market penetration was less than 0.5% of the global polymer market. 99, more than 99% of the global polymer market is still non-degradable petrochemical-based polymer. And when I try to understand the reason why, after decades, this material not gain market traction, is the biggest problem is the price. Current bioplastics are not competitive petrochemical. So I said, okay, I think to solve this problem, we need to start from a raw material that could be manufactured at scale, easily, in high purity and high volume, and a cost that is cheaper than petrochemical raw material. So I look at the landscape of material that could be used, identify one that's not being used for making polymer, and decide to design a polymer, a new bioplastic around that chemistry, so that I could have a cost competitive edge against petrochemical plastic. And so the adoption will become a choice of convenience, not a choice of sustainability. And at that point, we were successful in designing a new chemistry, and that's where the company is trying to go ahead, is commercializing this new chemistry.
Very good. And Danny, what's your perspective on this? What interested you in getting involved with Sylvia and, potentially changing the world?
Yeah. So, after my stint at technology company in California, I went back to university system, and I had more about leadership positions to lead departments and divisions. That is called the technology transfer, which is basically the managing entity for universities' intellectual properties from their
Yeah.
research, so patents and things. So I had opportunity to look at lots and lots of technologies, breakthrough technologies, um, new discoveries, but very few of those new discoveries had commercial intent or commercial application figured out from the beginning. One thing that really impressed me about Sylvia was, just as she said, from the very beginning, she had the commercialization uh, in mind, and she was thinking about the price and cost structure. And that's where she was really focused on solving the problem and adding on to that commercialization thinking the science and innovation to get to actual product, it will solve the problem in the world. So to me, that was really different from a lot of the other hundreds of technologies that I had looked at. That inventor was thinking from the beginning the price structure and how to get to the market.
Yeah, well, I mean, the number Sylvia gave for the penetration of the biocompostable plastics, right? The adoption of that that's really sad, right, to a large degree. So tell me, Denny, where do you see, like, once you get to commercialization, where would a typical consumer see something that is developed with your products?
Yeah, now that's a great question. Silvia and I talked quite a bit about what we call the beachhead market. What is the first place this product will go into to make a difference? And selecting that market is really important in commercialization process. And few things we considered. First thing is that where is the plastic having a most devastating effect? And that is in one-time use, single use, then thrown away kind of use of plastic. And we wanted the market to be big enough so that it's not some very small niche usage. And we wanted to make sure that the the business we will do is more of a B2B instead of B2C, so that we're not affected by kind of finickiness of consumer behavior. So we ended up in looking at the logistics sector, where we these days when we ship a lot of things, um, we send things on pallets and we put boxes on top of it. But boxes need to be wrapped in plastic, and those are one-time use. They use lots of it, and there's really no solution. Most of those are thrown away and they go to landfill. So we really thought that would be a really good beachhead market to address.
A great idea. I hate single-use plastics, right? Especially the ones that, like, the hard shell ones that you get like at Costco or whatever, where you know,
Yep.
not only is it a single-use plastic, but it's so hard to get into that it drives you nuts. But it really is, something that I think we've all noticed over the last couple decades, how much it's proliferated, right? And I travel a lot for work, so one of the things that has happened to me, because I live in the Seattle area, we typically fly in Alaska Air, and they got rid of all the single-use plastics on the plane, and they went to paper type of, paper, water, um, what do you call them, cartons, right?
Mhm.
Um, but they're like lined with wax, so the water doesn't taste as good. So now people
Right.
don't now people just don't drink water, or they bring their own water, which is fine too, right? So, but it's the effort that I think there's a ton of opportunity there. And I was just we have a pellet stove in the house, so we buy a pallet of pellets every year for winter, just to help keep the house warm, keep the electricity costs down. And, it's all wrapped in that plastic. I mean, it's like
Yes.
they put it on a turnstile and spin it around 100 times, and just wrap the daylights out of that thing. So I think that's a great, first place to jump in. They even have them at the airports for people with their luggage, so
Yes,
y
exactly.
you'll see them spinning around there. So that's a good option. So tell me, so, okay, so I get my pallet delivered. I rip off all the plastic of your sustainable chemical product, and then what? I just go bury it in the backyard? Is that the idea? Or that it still goes to the landfill, but that it's not going to poison the water table?
Right. So I think there is a couple of aspects to that question. Um, the plastic is really designed intrinsically for being collected, and then if it's clean enough, it could be what is called mechanically recycled, meaning it's just basically remolded, retransformed. However, most single-use plastic is not clean enough, whether they're contaminated during the manufacturing process by additive or by the consumer, peanut butter, dirt, whatever. So in that case, we engineer the polymer so we can break it down to its constituents, distill off the raw material and manufacture virgin plastic that has the same quality as the original one. However, we recognize that the recycling of single-use plastic is still very low in the US, but everywhere else in the world. And so the plastic needs to have a benign end of life if it's landfilled or lost to the environment. So our plastic, if its landfill, breaks down to natural molecules that are nutrients and will be enter the natural carbon cycle production of bio-based material by Mother Nature. And if they get lost in the environment, the same will happen, and the breakdown is such that there will not be formation of microplastic.
What's the next stage for you? Where are you taking this, and where do you see the business in the next 2 to 3 years?
So far, we spent time in research phase, and Silvia has been really great obtaining a grant to do basic science part of this, and we'll continue to do that for a little bit. But we're in the transition stage of relying on the government grant to receiving private equity investment, and then really making product that we were going to sell. So we're right at the cusp of that transition, and we just launched our pre-seed round of financing. So with that money, we can make transition the lab scale production to pilot scale, and that's where we go next.
Very exciting. And what do you think is the time frame to get there? Next 6 months to a year?
Yes. Hopefully, the seed round will close relatively quickly within this year. And once we have that funding, we can transition to pilot scale. So in next 12 to 18 months, that's where that transition from that lab scale to pilot will be happening.
Excellent. And I did already visit the website. Nice web page that you have developed. So I'll put a link to that in the description of the video as well, so people can find you and if, get in contact if they want to invest or learn more about the product. So just stepping away from the business a little bit and just the world in general, where do you see this and other science like this kind of getting us in the next decade?
I think, yes, I think there will be an increased awareness. There will be increased evidence that the impact are serious and real to people's health and well-being. It's also, I think, a transition that would allow the strengthen U.S. Based economy because the cutting reliance for manufacturing material from oils allow the U.S. to have home-based production of the raw material, which could be, the leftover from agricultural scraps or forestry scrap, and that would secure, the leadership role of the United States in the world, um, together with provide cost benefits. If we achieve this cost competitive with petrochemical, it would provide cost benefits to the end user, not only in terms of sustainability, but in terms of economics.
Yeah, very good. What do you think, Denny? You think we'll ever get to a place in our lifetimes where we won't be doing single-use plastics anymore?
I think plastic has been vilified, and a lot of people think plastic is evil. But what we're trying to say is that plastic itself is probably not evil, but what it's made from is a problem. So what we're trying to do, in my opinion, in bigger picture, is we're transitioning from petrochemical raw material to make stuff to bio-based raw material to make things. So plastic is certainly one of those things. But in my earlier career, I worked in a biofuel startup, which didn't quite work out. But 20 years since then, now airlines are looking for and using already bio-based fuel to fly their jets. So we're 20 years too early, but now it's actually happening where bio-based material is being used. So I think we are part of that bigger movement of bio-based material, and we're specifically focused on plastic, but it's happening in fuel. It's happening in other places where things used to be made from petrochemical raw material, but now it's transitioning to safer and more circular bio-based material. And I feel like we're part of that bigger movement of bio-based material economy.
What can you tell me about the ecosystem that's set up in Colorado, and then maybe some of the challenges as well that you faced along the way?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's an excellent question. For sure, the startup ecosystem in Colorado is not as developed as and the East Coast or the West Coast. So there is additional challenges due to um, lower network among startup. There is a limited amount of space available for especially deep tech companies that are looking for laboratory space with specialized equipment and engineering control, and even the funding. It's more limited. Funding that's focused on Colorado is more limited. We are definitely very involved with the ecosystem in Colorado. We're trying to do a little of our own to improve that.
I love it. All right, so tell me about Colorado Cleantech, Sylvia, and how you got involved and about the award. How did that all come about?
Yeah, the Colorado Clean Tech was sort of a involvement that came from another mentor that was part of the Rocky Venture Club where I met Denny and Aaron Finn, which basically nominated us for the award, and we are very grateful. And to be honest, it was a little bit of a surprise. I was there expecting, oh well, it's gonna be a nice dinner, and we're gonna watch someone else get the award, until we got called on stage. So that was an exciting moment, and yeah, we're absolutely grateful for it. It's been interesting adventure, and obviously as this startup funder, there is moments of let's call it rejection and moments of um, recognition. And so the the Cleantech Award for Breakout Technology was definitely a joy, a moment of joy.
Excellent. Very good. Um, I saw the actual plaques that you got too. I thought those were really nice with the red rocks built in.
Oh yeah,
And you don't have it on your mantle behind you, so
it's
uh,
in the lab. Yeah, yeah,
ah,
the lab where yes, it's an achievement of the entire team, and I felt strongly it has to be in the lab.
very good.
So
Good
it's
choice.
sitting right in the middle of the lab and top of the equipment.
Oh, that's great. And then we got Climate Week coming up in March. Are you guys planning on participating in that?
Yes, we're planning to participate. We have signed up for being a speaker,
Yeah.
and we'll see how that goes. But
All
we're
right.
looking forward to the ecosystem.
Yes, me too. And there's a good chance I'll be there as well. So maybe we'll get to meet in person. Okay. All right. So that concludes the interview, the podcast. Thank you both very much for your time today. It's been great talking to you and learning about sustainable chemicals. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens, and really looking forward to seeing, seeing your name in lights someplace after we start changing the world. I think it's really admirable what you're doing. and I'm a big fan. So it was really great to meet you both.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay.